Hello there. It is the Rich Lieberman Bay Area Media Pulse for Thursday. I hope you're having a great week. I hope you're enjoying yourself. And oh, yeah, for once, Good Friday is on Friday, and Easter Sunday is this Sunday. I finally got it right, but anyway. Uh, I've often said that, I don't rarely how can I put this? I don't rarely compliment people. I'm very critical. And I've always said when I see something or hear something good, or really good, or whatever, I'll make it a point if I could fit it in. Of course, I can fit it in. Sounds a little pompous. I'll fit it into my schedule and I'll try to highlight something. And I frankly have been following because I'm a consumer of news, whether it's sports, whether it's personalities, culture, pop music, politics, what have you. So I, have been following this WNBA sensation, this whole thing, how they've catapulted themselves, this league, into a bona fide, high profile organization. They're outdrawing the NBA in some instances. And for good reason. It's a good game. It's not my cup of tea, but I watch. I love the whole aspect of superstars and the whole thing with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. And I've been following it. Again, I want to be very clear and transparent. It's not my cup of tea, but I respect the fact that they've been able to make themselves not only viable, but indeed a big, huge drawing card. I know locally we have the onset of a new WNBA franchise. It's been getting a lot of play on KCBS and most recently KPIX, CBS News Bay Area. For good reason there. They are going to be televising on one of their digital channels the Golden State Valkyries. That's the local WNBA organization, which begins play, I believe, in early May. I don't have the exact date, but they begin play, and they'll be playing at the Chase Center. And of course, they're subsidized to some degree. I think even fully owned by the Warriors. I'm not entirely certain on that, but they're affiliated. And speaking of that, I like this guy. Now, I want to be fully transparent. I know this guy not very well, but I know him. I've complimented him when I was making more appearances at various Bay Area press boxes. I would say hi. I knew his dad very well. His dad was a local sports writer and a nice guy, both his late father and himself. I'm talking about George Devine Jr. Now, he does the play-by-play for the USF women's basketball. And I've always complimented him and said, man, you're pretty damn good. And because I do this now, I don't feel awkward. I don't feel guilty in any way. You're asking, well, why would you feel guilty? Well, good answer. Because the people that I do like, and I've had some people on here, some interviews with like Roxy Bernstein, who does play-by-play, used to do Cal. Now he's very prominent at ESPN doing college basketball, NHL hockey. He'll be doing hockey games. I've lauded Randy Hahn, the play-by-play guy for the San Jose Sharks. Talked about in the past Ken Korak. Was very, very high on people like, name Ted Robinson, I thought was very pristine and crisp. One of the more underrated, not only a local voice in that regard, but national. So back to Devine. Somebody tipped me off to his play-by-play, and I knew he did play-by-play for USF Women's, but I don't listen that much to the USF Women's game. I don't. But one day I was chewing gum and, trying to be educational and profound. So I tuned in and I was sent a link. And I said to myself, this guy's very good. He's solid. He gives you the play-by-play account. He's complimentary when he has to be. More importantly, when he has to be critical, which invariably a good play-by-play guy has to be critical. Of course, he or she does. Well, then you do it. You don't become a homer unless you have a following and you have your own shtick and all that. My point is, this guy had a natural ebb and flow. He could, I don't want to say rip, but he was critical when he should have been, and of course, complimentary when the situation merited. I think he's very, very good. He's not great. He's not spectacular. He's good. And in this day and age, that is almost like being spectacular because the quality of play by play is down. We're in a different era. We're in a different environment where all the powers that be, these organizations, where the announcer is paid for by the team, therefore sometimes they feel an obligation, that's kind of stretching a word, to be nice. Many years ago, the Sharks had to get rid of somebody who they subsequently brought back. I'm not going to mention the name because I don't want to go down this alleyway, because they wanted a commercial. They wanted somebody to be very nice, even when the organization was not doing that well. They were playing sloppy years ago. So they got rid of this guy. They subsequently brought him back, and I'm glad. But back to Devine. I think the Valkyries, this is a new organization. This is an organization that apparently is very, very popular. They've sold 10,000, 15,000 season tickets. And this is a very popular game. If, in my opinion, they wanted to do something very fresh, very, very profound, they can do really well by hiring this guy, this George Devine. He knows the game. Hell, he broadcasts USF women's basketball. And give a look. I didn't link up his work, but if you go on YouTube, if you just go to your search engine and type his name in, I'm sure you can get a video of his work. And look, I don't want to be naive, so I'm going to mention this. I'm saying they being the Valkyries, they're going to probably go out and look and hire a woman play-by-play broadcaster. Not the end of the world. Perfectly fine. I think it's a little reverse, shall we say. How can I put this? You know what I mean. They're going to go out of their way to get somebody, and it's a woman. Okay, nothing wrong with that. It's just the way it is. I think it's kind of somewhat hypocritical. I'm not saying that specifically about them. That's the mores we live in now. That's the method. That's the business model. But let me just say this. It's not just for the Valkyries. I think this guy deserves a shot. He's knowledgeable. He gives you a fluid broadcast. I'm being complimentary for a change because, frankly, folks, and you all know this, there's not a lot of people out there to compliment. And I like adequate. I like competency. I used to really love Korak for the Oakland A's. I thought he was good, really solid. I use that word a lot, solid, because he wasn't trying to be spectacular. Ken Korak. He wasn't trying to be fantastic. There were broadcasters, he just simply did what he was supposed to do and give you an account of the game, in this case, Major League Baseball. There are people out there who think they're funny, who think that by talking and talking and talking, that they add something to a broadcast when in actuality, they're not really adding anything. They ought to just give you the play by play, of course. Provide a little humor, have a little depth, try to be a little subliminally funny every now and then, even though that's not your number one chore. Your number one chore is to give the play by play, the account of the game, be knowledgeable, have a sense of what's taking place. And I think on all those fronts, George Devine Jr. is good. He would be a terrific addition to an organization. Maybe hire a woman analyst, a color analyst. In any event, I think he would be a really terrific play by play person who would do a credible job, who would be forceful and entertaining. And I say that, and once again, I want to be fully matter of fact, full disclosure. I know George Devine Jr. So I think I bring that into the open because not saying anything to me would be also faulty. Having said all of that, listen to this guy, watch him. I'm sure you can find a clip and you tell me. And of course, there's always going to be doubters and negative people like myself. Isn't that the irony? I think he would be a valuable, terrific addition to the Golden State Valkyries. I hope by talking about this and giving a nice plug to George Devine Jr. that he's taken into account, whether on television. And of course, as I indicated earlier, KPIX just announced that they will televise the home games on one of their digital channels, the Valkyries. I don't know if they've reached a radio deal. Perhaps they're not even going to consider radio, but if they do, and I assume they will, please consider George Devine Jr. He's worthy of your attention, and I think most importantly would be a terrific, terrific voice for this new organization.